Oops. Hello and welcome to FDS. My name is Nate and I'm your host. And today we are still talking about the Craftsman 10 Compartment Organizer. Why? I have a very good reason. I've been busy. After last week's episode posted, I was watching it on Friday, like I do all my episodes because I'm a narcissist. I kept coming back to how disappointed I was at how this box, while it works, it's so close. It's almost there. It would be an excellent choice for carrying around cards, but because of a design choice, it was too far off the mark and not necessarily a choice for most people. And I realized that's why a lot of people liked the old Stanley DeWalt option, because it was really good. The compartments that were a part of that box were excellent for holding cards. As I was watching it, I realized I have a 3D printer. Because of course I do. And I have a modicum of design skills. We're designing a box here. This isn't exactly like I'm designing a Fabergé egg. I decided, why don't I take a crack at it? So I started printing and designing all of these. As you can see, there's 4 here. These are the 4 that didn't work. But then I landed on one that did. This one. This design worked wonderfully. It solved the main problem with the existing compartments while also keeping the features of the existing compartments that were so nice. Now it was a learning process. If you're interested to know the details about the versioning on this and the design of this box, I will be posting a video on the CiP Network channel. Click on that link in the corner or in the description if you're watching this after I've published it. But that video is going to go into more detail on the individual versions, why I'm considering this rectangle a version, as well as the decisions I made and what I went through to make these. I'm not going to put them here because I know you folks are just more interested in the box itself and not the long and winding road that I took to get there. Anyway, to summarize the designing process, it basically took me the entire weekend. I would create a design, run the print, and then when that print would be finished, I would test it, make any changes that I needed to in the design, and then run that print, and then again and again and again. This has a base that fits nicely into the footprint of the existing compartments, and it fits very well with very little wiggle, and then the box flares out from there to be much larger, but yet can still fit with others next to it in the larger container. And it has all the other benefits that since it fits in the footprint and this is tall enough to fit within the grid that's on the lid, so I can put a Boulder 100 Plus with a commander deck in it, put it in the center of the larger container and shake the container, and this ain't going anywhere. So basically, I can fit 10 commander decks in this container now. Yes, you heard me right. Boulder 100 Plus fits perfect. You may have noticed that I put it in sideways into the box, but it can go in front ways or back ways, not slant ways though. I will mention that putting it in front ways or back ways, it's a bit of a tight fit. In fact, I have a feeling I'm going to be drilling holes into this right here, into this corner, maybe a couple of corners, so that way there's some airflow so it doesn't, as you can see, takes a little bit to get them out. But because boulders can fit in here front ways and back ways, it can fit at least one of all the other sizes. So it can fit an 80 plus, a 60 plus, or a 40 plus. It can fit a 60 plus and a 40 plus, but it's tight and the lid strains a little bit on it. As you can see in the video here, it wobbles a little bit more than it would have otherwise. But it can fit with no problem 2 40 pluses if you put them in both front ways. Now that's deck boxes. And admittedly, these are boulders. But if you're using one of Ultimate Guard's thin deck boxes, Ultra Pro's basic deck box, or even Game Genic's version, they all will fit in here. I haven't tested any of the larger deck boxes that are out there, mainly because I mostly have boulders, at least for single deck boxes. These can fit 75 to 100 double-sleeved cards, depending on the types of sleeves you have. I didn't check single sleeve cards or non-sleeve cards, but just use your imagination, a whole lot more of those. Basically, since I got this design nailed down, my printer has been running nonstop printing these off. In fact, I wanted to have an entire box worth of these printed off before I did this video, but there just isn't enough time. Now, because I'm extremely self-critical, I will point out a bit of a flaw that I don't love and that I'm trying to work around. I know this is partially my printer and my being a novice at 3D printing. The transition from the foot to the main box is not the cleanest, and you can see in some of the prints there's some warbliness to it, and the rounded part isn't as nice. I know there are ways that I could fix that, but I'm still very new at making designs like these, so I didn't want to mess up the design too much, and this was working. This is mostly an aesthetic choice that is on the bottom of the print, so it doesn't bother me too much. It's only along the edges, and it's really not that noticeable unless you look for it, because I'm printing these off on a filament printer. Using a better quality filament would, as logic would dictate, make this issue not as noticeable. The filament doesn't droop as much, but it's still there. It doesn't go away completely. I've got to say, I'm extremely happy with this design. I'm printing them out in different colors. I have a green one printing right now, and I plan on getting more colors of PLA to print these. I have a feeling I will be printing these a lot. I have a lot of these Craftsman organizers, so I probably am going to stack them full of these. I had considered making a design for the larger compartment, but I haven't gone into that yet because I've been focusing on this piece and getting these printed off. Let me know if you think I should. I'll be happy to revisit it after I print off a couple dozen of these. Also, something else I would be interested in knowing, would any of you out there be interested in these? For those of you who are interested in the print file, just know that these take about 12 hours to print if you're printing at normal speed. You're not speeding up your printer at all. Also, these use up about $2 worth of filament, give or take, depending on how much your filament cost. That's the cost and time that each one of these takes. If you're not interested in the print file because you don't have a 3D printer, or you don't have somebody that you know that has a 3D printer that will be willing to give up a full week of it to print off a couple of dozen of these, I might consider selling these. So I thought I'd put it out there to see if anybody would be interested in taking advantage of what I've come up with. Something else you should take advantage of is that right there. This show is part of the CiP Network, inspiring creativity, one episode at a time.